Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Go Ballistic. I'm Ryan Rowe, joined by Sausage Sun's Head of Sport, Roger Hannah. Jam-packed episode for you today. Speaking of jam, the Jam Tarts, new manager in place.
I see what you did there.
Nice little segue. We've also got a review of the weekend's action. Celtic officially champions, celebrate the title. Some Rangers manager news for you as well. And a new Scotland squad, or not quite new, let's say.
Newish.
A couple of newish faces. But let's start before we get to the rest. And we've got Kris Boyd coming too, of course. Before we go any further, Celtic, James Forrest, written in the stars.
Fantastic. I was convinced he was going to score the winner in the Scottish Cup final in stoppage time next week, but 16 seasons, he's scored in every season. He's now the most decorated Celt of all time, and it was great to see him with Bobby Lennox, the man whose record he eclipsed at the weekend. It was great to see Bobby looking so well. A couple of Ayrshirmen, like ourselves.
Yes,
so it's
God's
always
country.
good to see them prospering, and it was a fitting finale really to Celtic's league season, that deep into stoppage time on Saturday. Shame for St Mirren, who had done ever so well, but in the final analysis didn't really make any difference to them anyway, and their hopes of European football, and it's great for James.
In the final analysis, as you said, James Forrest is still playing, and by all accounts he could keep playing for a long time. Where does he rank in the Celtic pantheon? And it's a tough question, and no disrespect, but he's probably never been the best player in any of the Celtic squads that he's been in. He'd be the first to say that.
James's modesty would say he's not in the great pantheon of Celtic greats, but he must be. He's won 26 medals. He has been a fixture at the club for, as we say, 16 years. And you know yourself, in this day and age, players move about. It's very seldom to get a one-club man. Even Callum McGregor played for Notts County, you know. So you don't get many like James Forrest anymore. I hope when he finishes, and I think he's got a season left in his deal, it would take him to, I think, the age of 34. I would hate to see James Forrest go anywhere else.
Be weird, wouldn't it?
You couldn't see him in another jersey. I hope he finishes his career where he started it, and you could argue all day long where he fits in this pantheon of Celtic greats, but he's definitely in it somewhere.
Yeah. Brendan Rodgers spoke a little bit about his future, probably nothing that we weren't unaware of. He'll talk to Dermot Desmond over the summer, and he's always said that he plans on doing 3 years. We'll keep hearing murmurs from down south that someone will try and tempt him away, but he's been firm on this, that he'll be doing 3 years.
He has been. I had the great pleasure of being at the Scottish Football Writers Association Awards dinner last night. Brendan picked up the Manager of the Year award. He spoke well. He spoke about his relationship with Dermot Desmond. They will decide what happens between them. Brendan was adamant when he came back he would do 3 years. I think he will do 3 years. Robert Graver, Chief Football Writer, has written in the paper a couple of times. He thinks that will be it. It will be 3 years and out, so to speak. I tend to agree with him. But listen, would you be surprised if he bolted a season onto it?
I wouldn't be surprised, but let's not anger a Celtic fan base who have just enjoyed the weekend. And if he adds another season on, then, I don't know, let's not give him any false hope. I'm not sure. I wouldn't be surprised, though, either way.
Absolutely. And I actually think, we said it in the show last week, I think Brendan Rodgers would be a great manager for a Manchester United, a Tottenham Hotspur. I've always thought at some stage in his career, he'll have a go on the continent, probably Spain.
Speak Spanish.
But not now.
Not now, yep. Stephen Robson also likes he'll be staying at St Mirren.
Maybe.
Probably be some interest in him again over the summer. But
certainly be interest, yeah.
They've done a good job as well this season.
Listen, I can remember a time Jack Ross taking over at St Mirren, managing to save them from a drop into League One. And now Stephen Robinson has given them top 6 finishes 3 consecutive seasons. I mean, it's absolutely remarkable. The best they've done in 40 odd years in terms of league consistency. He's lost Olasanya. He's going to lose Boyd Munns and Richard Taylor as well. But he has nailed down a lot of the players who have done so well for St Mirren. You would expect them to do well again next season, but I still think it's in the balance whether Stephen will be there or not.
That we'll see. So Kris Boyd to come soon, and also all of these topics, one of which we imagine will be the Rangers manager situation. It's been confirmed now, as we all kind of knew. Barry Ferguson won't be staying on. One, how do you assess the job he's done? And two, he said he wouldn't leave Rangers and go and manage somewhere else.
No,
Could you see him in the dugout?
No.
Again?
No, I don't think so. I spoke to Barry at Easter Road on Saturday. I think Barry will go back to his ambassadorial role at Rangers. It was listen, he enjoyed the role of ambassador before he moved into
less pressure.
into the dugout. It was a lot less pressure, of course. But I think he'll go back to that rather than take a manager's job at a lesser club. I think that's where he sees his future. He's spoken well, he's carried himself well since he's been in 15 games in charge.
Absolutely.
But, you know, I've said before, it doesn't matter if it was Barry Ferguson or Alec Ferguson, you can only do so much with that group of players that he inherited from Philippe Clement. No one can make them a better group of players overnight. So the key for Rangers now is get the takeover done, get a new manager in, and find players who are better than the ones that Barry had to deal with.
Yep, on that note, we know of Lyle Cameron coming in.
Yeah.
What else do Rangers need in your eyes?
Oh, a goalie, some defenders, some more midfielders, and a couple of strikers, I would say.
Would do okay,
they certainly need reinforcements, more or less throughout the team. The goalkeeper situation at the end of the season wasn't great. Burton was in, Kelly was in, Butland was back in. They're only going so long with James Tavernier.
Yep.
One summer, he will go.
He'll have to.
It's as simple as that. Centre backs, there's not really a first choice alongside Suter.
Whose fitness often can let him down.
And he's only got a year left in his deal. The two left backs don't convince you. Midfield, Raskin's improved, Diamandi's improved, Connor Barron to a certain extent has improved, Cameron's coming in. But you need to remember, you know, Czerny's going.
And that's a lot of goals, a lot of assists.
Hadji's probably going. Lawrence is going. So they're going to need to improve there, and they will want someone up top with Dessers and Egerman. Someone better than Danilo.
Yep, another big disappointment. I mean, Dessers gets a lot of the flack, but I think that's because he plays more often. Danilo plays less and he costs more. It's a bit of a strange one.
Yeah.
The ghost goal. Have you ever seen anything like that?
Well, it's the last day of the season. Thank goodness it wasn't a helicopter Saturday. Otherwise, the nation would be in meltdown with it. People are laughing it off because, in the great scheme of things, it didn't really matter. But for me, it's a goal. And it wasn't given by Nick Walsh, by the linesman, by Andrew Dallas in the VAR room. It's a goal. I can't really say it any clearer than that. So they've got
And we said
away.
the same with the Alistair Johnston one at the time. It
So
looked, you know,
they've got away with one because it doesn't really matter. But if it happens when there's a title race, if there's a title race next season, wow.
Yep. So, quick, before we move on, Hibs prospects next season. David Gray, he's now got his feet well under the desk and has turned around that group.
He has, and they'll lose players. Well, everybody loses players. But he can look and say they've got Martin Boyle for another season, signed an extension on Friday. They've got Kieran Bowie, who scored against Rangers and is now in the Scotland squad. Looks a really promising talent. The Caddens will be fine in those areas out there. What they will need to do, I think, Triantis will be a big loss in the middle of the park. They'll need to get somebody in to replace him. And that wee floating role, does Junior Hoylett stay? Do they feel Josh Campbell's the man going forward? Can they improve in that area? They probably need a wee bit more cover defensively as well, I would say. You know, Bashiri has had the best season of his career. Iredale has played well, scored that goal against Hart. I just think if they're getting into Europe, guaranteed group stage football, unless Aberdeen win the cup final, I think Hibs, they'll probably just need more numbers just to help sustain, because Aberdeen had group stage football and had to get rid of Barry Robson. Hearts had group stage football and they get rid of Robbie Nielsen the season before. So, you know, quite often you can find you're a peacock in May and then you're a feather duster in October.
Speaking of Hearts, Derek McInnes unveiled as
Soon.
we're recording this.
Yeah.
Just about to. So by the time you see this, he will have the scarf above his head. He's the new man in at Tynecastle. Heard you say before, everybody a bit of a winner with this outcome.
It just makes sense. Sometimes you just see things that make sense for everyone. Hearts are getting a better manager. He's an upgrade on Neil Critchley, without doubt. Derek's got a 4-year contract, gives him job security. I would imagine he's probably getting paid more than he was getting paid at Kilmarnock. So he's a winner. And you listen to the Kilmarnock fans, I think the parting of Derek McInnes and Kilmarnock probably suits Kilmarnock as well, because the supporters were getting a little bit frustrated. You heard them at Fir Park in the defeat last week to Motherwell, but Derek had been getting a bit of stick from that group in the main stand at Rugby Park throughout the season. So there'll be a new Kilmarnock manager to look forward to. They'll turn over players as well and they'll go again. I think it just suits everybody, Ryan.
That's Fir Park, not Sycamore Park, for anybody watching. But more to the point, Our own Gareth Law, Stephen Naismith in Kilmarnock, that could be a return on the cards.
Again, sometimes some things just look right. Stephen needs back into the game for his career, not for any other reason than that. If you're a manager and you're out the game for a long time, it's easy to be forgotten. So I won't want that. He knows Billy Bowie. He knows the club, he knows the fan base, he was a popular Kilmarnock player. That would buy him a bit of time with those same fans who are growing frustrated with Derek. I just think it makes sense, which means he probably won't harm.
So, to the bottom end of the table, Ross County into the playoffs. How do you see them against Livingston?
I worry about Ross County. If you're going to continually finish 11th and plunge yourself into these playoffs, you're not going to be able to win them every year. Beat Partick by the skin of their teeth, beat Wraith Rovers far more comfortably last season. But I've seen County a couple of times lately. They desperately miss Noah Chilvers and the creativity, set-piece delivery, the passes he can play. I worry for them. Livy are... they're a hardened team.
Yeah.
You know, you look through a very good goalkeeper, the boy Pryor's a good goalie. Danny Wilson and Ryan McGowan have seen it all before. The likes of Pittman and Stephen Kelly in the middle of the park. They've got goals up top. They'll start with Muirhead. They've got Stevie May and Tete Yengi to come off the bench. I actually wonder if this could be a season too far for Ross County.
Yeah, might suit Livingston as well.
Yeah.
Looking far ahead, if Ross County and St Johnstone both end up in the Championship, could you see both coming straight back up?
No.
Tough.
No. I think it'll be difficult. The Championship is always ultra competitive. It will be again next season. You wonder if Dunfermline might throw a bit of money at it. If James Bond can convince Neil Lennon to stay on a permanent basis, which I think he probably could if the terms were right. So they'll have a go. You look at the teams that missed out this season in the playoffs. Ayr United will go again. Partick Thistle will try and go again. Wraith Rovers had a great run and just missed the playoffs. So Barry Robson, who we mentioned a wee minute ago, he will feel they can be competitive and get into a playoff situation next season. So there'll be plenty of competition for St Johnstone and Ross County. I don't think they'll find it easy because Livy come down and didn't find it easy.
We've got Kris Boyd just to come, but want to touch on the disgusting scenes at Tannadice. Yeah. Jack McKenzie. Now it looks as though the Dundee United and Aberdeen will be working together with the authorities to find the culprit, but how far? But Bill Leckie has already written his column.
Very good piece.
Have we not already reached the point of no return?
You could almost call it an individual programme in this, Ryan. What goes through someone's mind that they want to tear out a seat of a stadium and throw it onto the pitch? That could have hit anyone.
Yeah, never mind.
You know, there was young Dundee United fans. They shouldn't have been on the pitch in the first place, but they were. It could have hit a kid. It could have hit anyone. Jack McKenzie's lucky his sight isn't affected by this. He probably got off lightly. Terrible scenes. The last time Aberdeen were there, a vodka bottle got thrown on and narrowly missed Jim Goodwin. So things need to be done. You hear of clubs cutting allocations for away fans. We've just managed to get Celtic fans back into Ibrox, Rangers fans back into Celtic Park. There's an argument now that Aberdeen fans shouldn't be allowed into Tannadice. There's an argument that allocations need to be cut. You could maybe put them in that area behind the goal rather than in the main stand where they're so close to the management teams and things like that. But the authorities need to get involved with that. I mean, the police, there needs to be stronger stewarding. There needs to be messages sent out, banning orders. I would actually like to see banning orders tightened in Scottish football. Keep these guys out. We don't want them in the game. Just don't come. Don't come to the games. You're not welcome. And it needs to be treated far more seriously by everyone than it currently is.
Yeah. Strong words. Now, if you watched on social media, Celtic revelling in the celebrations, simply the best. Is it going to become a Celtic song?
I would very much doubt that, but listen, this is the time of year where everyone likes a little bit of whataboutery and carry on. I noticed when Ayr United get knocked out of the playoffs, Kelly had a wee nibble, and you see it down south, they all like a wee nibble at each other, so it was quite funny. They will enjoy it. Rangers will need to suck it up again, and if or when the tables get turned, they'll have a pot back. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's where we are. Now, Before you get to Kris Boyd, here's a little preview of the latest in the fantastic series with Derek McGregor going one-on-one.
Even in the clubs, there was a Celtic in, the Rangers in. No, it was bizarre because you'd have the Celtic boys in one area, you'd have the Rangers boys in another. We'd all nod to each other, wave to each other. But we were cute enough that supporters were there. You didn't speak, because if you spoke to any of them, well, you didn't speak to him. You know, sort of thing.
It's a black
and obviously you didn't want people with a couple of drinks in for themselves as well, because they'd probably end up getting lifted or whatever, all that sort of stuff. So we tried to keep away from that. So we'd always acknowledge each other, speak to each other a couple of minutes or whatever. Victoria's was slightly different because you'd an upstairs, we'd all have a drink up there. Then when we came down the stairs, one would go to the right, one would go to the left.
Who would you say you were particularly pally with in the Rangers team?
Durante.
Durante, aye.
Durante was a pal of mine because, as I say, we'd come through the levels together. A terrific player. I think he's the best Rangers player I played against.
Well, we can now go and speak to Sun Sports' Kris Boyd down in sunny Ayrshire. Boyd, it's the first day after the Premiership season has finished, and already we've had 2 managerial casualties. We'll speak about Tony Docherty in a moment, but Barry Ferguson, Rangers about 4:30 yesterday afternoon, confirming that Barry and his managerial team of Neil McCann, Billy Dodds, Alan McGregor have all departed the club. Does it come as any surprise to you that the New Rangers board will look elsewhere for a manager?
No, I mean, I always felt that was going to be the case with a takeover happening, and I think that Barry deserves enormous credit for coming in when in a time when it wasn't great. There was a lot of negativity flying around, and I know of results on the pitch, and Barry's spoken about this. He would have wanted them to be better, but I do firmly believe, having spoken to people around the club and the training centre, I do firmly believe that he's left the place in a better place than what it was, a few months ago. I get that, fans and everybody else just look at the results, and Barry will be the first to admit they could have been better, performances could have been better, but I think it's been the same group of players that have I've lost a few managers their job, a few coaches. The same mistakes are still happening, and that needs to be sorted and corrected over the summer. I would like to think that whoever comes in now will pick up the phone to Barry as well, and Barry, being the man that he is, I think would be it would be warm to speaking to whoever comes in and explaining to them what he felt as if was going wrong with the club and what needs to change, because there is no doubt that Barry Ferguson loves Rangers Football Club. I kind of knew that, Roger, that this would potentially happen in terms of if they get a taste for it, and it would have hurt him losing. Saying losing his job, but not really losing his job as such, as he was given an opportunity to come in for 3 months to take Rangers to the end of the season, and I think he could leave with his head held high. And I just hope that whoever does come in does pick up the phone to him, because there is no doubt that what he has learned inside, that 3 months of being in, could be a huge difference to the incoming manager or coach, whatever way Rangers decide to go.
When he was in that ambassadorial role, Boyd, he would see things, he would see the team from the outside. Then he would move in to the dugout and he would see everything from the inside, from the eye of the storm. If he's advising the next Rangers manager, if the next Rangers manager does pick up the phone to him, will there be a few players at Ibrox worried about the futures?
Yeah, I think there will be, but that's just part of the course, I think. And there is no doubt the Rangers have been underperforming. There's been players that have managed to get themselves up for big games, but you then look at, what do you class as a big game? Every single one for Rangers, and they've failed to actually do it against teams that they should be beating. There's no getting away from it. The last manager, Philip Clement, spoke about budgets when he was coming up against teams in the Europa League and Celtic. But the reality, he was losing games against teams that, his budget was far way bigger than the difference between Rangers and Celtic and the European ones. That's just a fact. And still weren't able to win games. And that would be a worry for me. I think that I look at Rangers squad and think that, some they may be in a comfort zone, maybe, because it doesn't really matter how they play. They're going to start the following week. And, I think the strength and depth of the squad is key going forward. I think Rangers have got 13, 14 players that could come in, and it doesn't make a difference to the starting 11 as such. But out with that, I don't think there's a real competition for places. And at big football clubs, if you don't have that competition every single day, pushing people on, asking questions of the ones who's ahead of you, then ultimately you're going to come up short. And that's where Rangers have been. So I said, I think in one-off games, Rangers have shown that they can compete against Celtic. They've done it now for a period of time. But the reality is leagues and cups are one of consistency over the course and distance of a period of time. And, Rangers have failed in that department this year. But, I think that Barry will have learned a lot. And I just hope for Rangers Football Club's sake that whoever gets the job does pick up the phone. And because Rangers don't have time to waste, they need to get this appointment right. We're already eating into the summer. And if there's any little pieces of information that Barry Ferguson can pass on to the new manager, then pick up the phone, and I'm sure Barry would be more than delighted to help them out.
We're now into the second half of May, Boyd. There's still no sign of the 49ers, Andrew Kavanagh takeover being confirmed. Will Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart just charge on and get a manager ASAP, or will they wait for the Americans to come in?
I mean, I think, Roger, we're not naive enough to think that, they'll be working in the background. I can't, if you're not, then you're not doing your job properly either. I mean, there is no doubt that for a period of time now, the takeover will have been through the books, will have looked through the infrastructure of the football club, they'll have done all their due diligence, and now it'll be a case of moving forward. I don't think that, that some, the big decisions that have been made in terms of, the guys that come in behind the scenes, or even the removal of Barry right now, would have been made if it wasn't hadn't been spoken to the 49ers or the takeover. I don't think that when it's, everybody says it's only weeks away. I don't think that these big decisions would be made without them being consulted over them. Yeah. So I think there will be work being done in the background. There'll be, we know how long it takes for lawyers to sign things off, and I'd imagine that's at the stage that it's at. It's only a matter of time before it is completed, but they will already have been in working, and everybody's saying that there'll be a new manager in place in the coming week, and there has to be because there's no doubt that Rangers are already playing catch up to Celtic, and the last thing you want to do is go into a summer window where you've got Champions League qualifiers. You don't want to be signing players on the eve of them or during them. You want to get them in. You want to get a settled team in pre-season and move forward for their coach, manager, whoever comes in. I've said it, for a number of weeks now. I don't think Rangers can go down the route of just giving a manager the job and allowing him to bring in another 5, 6, 10 players, whatever it would be. I think it needs to be a club policy now going forward, because if you're going to continuously change managers, then you can't, every manager that comes in, allow them to bring in their type of player. The club needs to have an identity about it, that whoever is the coach or the manager buys into that, and it's not the case of the club buying into the manager as such.
One player who's definitely come into Ibrox is Lyle Cameron. He signed off for Dundee yesterday, 2 goals to ensure Dundee's Premiership survival. It's less than 24 hours on, and already the Dundee manager, Tony Docherty, has been sacked.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised, but I think it just sums up where football is right now. There is no doubt that Dundee overachieved last year, top 6, and the expectations of the football club then changes. This year, lost their best player, Luke McInnes, to Celtic. There is no doubt that some of Dundee's performances have been good, but there's been a lot of ones that haven't been good. And I look at it, there is no doubt going forward, Dundee have been exciting. It's been defensively, they've struggled. I'm sure that would have been something that Tony Dock and Stuart Taylor would have been looking to address in the summer, but they've not been given the chance. As I said, I think probably because of the way that Dundee United have went about their business this year as well, coming up from the Championship, Dundee would have looked at it and said, well, they've surpassed us and we want to achieve better things this season. And you know what it's like, Roger. Whenever, if you're in a city when there's another team and the other team's doing better than you, the pressure then multiplies. And the Dundee fans, they had it for a couple of seasons there where they would have won up on Dundee United. But, this season, it's went back the way. Dundee United have been excellent. They've been the team in the city this year. And, I can't help but think that, you know, you look at, there's obviously a big connection with Burnley and for Tony Docherty. I mean, I don't know the whole ins and outs of it, but you kind of get the feeling that there was an expectation at Dundee that far exceeded where they should be. Dundee, I think, in all our our predictions at the start of the season, you would have said 8th, 9th, 10th. That's where they would have been in round about. Yeah. Obviously lost their best player and had to go again. And it's been a disappointing season for Dundee, but I thought Tony Docherty had enough credit in the bank, and I just hope that he bounces back, because when you look at the job he's done, he's been a loyal assistant to Derek McInnes for a period of time, decided to go out on his own. We speak about it all the time in terms of managers that finish 3rd and 4th and then lose their jobs. You could argue Tony Docherty falls into the same category. Done really well last season, and now you're looking at it saying he's out there trying to find a new job. But there's one thing.
I wonder if he'd leap back in straight away at a Partick Thistle or something like that. What I was going to ask you, Boyd, your former Scotland teammate Sean Maloney is already favourite to become the next Dundee manager. You touched on McCowan gone, Cameron going, Jordan McGee's going to Motherwell, Josh Mulligan's out of contract, the likes of Portales is out of contract, and you forget with the loan players, Adewumi, Palmer Holden, Larkesh, all played a lot of football and are now gone from Dundee. So whether it's Sean Maloney or whoever it comes into Dens, they've got a big job in their hands, Boyd.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think obviously Sean was given the opportunity at Hibs. It didn't quite work out and went to Wigan. And I thought, for me, difficult circumstances at Wigan, I thought he'd done reasonably well. He's obviously going to, looks as if he's going to come back to Scottish football. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know you're a Scottish football anorak, but he was linked with the job before, wasn't he?
When they were in the Championship yet before Gary Boyer took them up.
It wasn't the right thing for him. So maybe he just feels as if it's a time to go there and work. And listen, it's a big opportunity for him. It didn't quite work at Hibs, and I mean, he will argue that the circumstances were different than what we're saying. But I look at, it's a big job, as you say, the amount of players that are leaving, the amount of starters that are leaving as well. The ones that had big impacts on the season. So it's a big job for Dundee. But again, listen, if they're going to make that change, today's the day to make it, because there's no point in hanging around and waiting for something to happen. Get a new manager in. It gives them a time to go through everything and see where they need to go over the summer. Because again, you would expect the league to be stronger again. There's no getting away. I think Falkirk coming up will be stronger than what St Johnstone have. We don't know what's going to happen with Ross County and Livingston, but there's a number of teams that already you're saying they're going to improve from this season. You'd expect them to improve. So the league's going to be tougher. But I think Sean's a lucky boy to be given the opportunity. If it is Sean Maloney to come back to Scottish football, there's no doubt his relationship with Gordon Strachan would have had a huge bearing in that. But I think in a way that's a positive as well, that you've got people within you that want you there and want you to work and will help you to the best they possibly can to be successful. Mm-hmm. So listen, it's a big summer for Dundee, but they've given themselves plenty of time to prepare for it.
It's an amazing managerial merry-go-round. Your former club, Kelly, looking for a new manager. We're waiting to see what happens at Partick Thistle and Dunfermline. Will those interim managers be confirmed? Queen's Park have confirmed Sean Crichton over the weekend. And Derek McInnes unveiled at Tynecastle, new manager of Heart of Midlothian. We knew that. We didn't know he was getting a 4-year contract, Boyd. That is some show of faith in Derek McInnes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that it sends off that straight away, where you're that you want to work together, and it's not going to be an overnight success. You're going to have to build, and there's going to be a lot of change at Hearts. There'll be a change for Derek as well, in terms of the way that we all know that he's a manager that's been pretty much hands-on everywhere he's been. That's going to be changing over. Yeah, he'll still have a say in the recruitment in terms of what type of player, but I can't see anything other than Jamestown Analytics will provide the players, and Derek McInnes will go on the pitch training them. So for that point of view, every manager coach speaks about the amount of time that's taken up off the field. This could be the opposite for Derek. Actually getting on the grass and coaching the players and making them better, making the team better. And I think a lot of Hearts fans can be excited about this move. Derek has shown for a number of years in terms of setting up teams that are hard to beat. And you look at Hearts. There's a softness creeped into them this season. There has been. It's something that we haven't seen for a Hearts team, or especially the one that you grew up watching and playing against. They were always robust, hard to beat, fantastic support at Tynecastle, and I'm sure that they will get behind Derek McInnes, and it could be the start of something exciting for Hearts. But they're under pressure as well, Roger. We speak about Dundee because of the season that Dundee United have had. It's the exact same with Hibs. I think David Gray, the fantastic season he's had. Obviously, they'll have European football to contend with next year. But for Hearts, again, big summer ahead. You'd expect loads of change in terms of the playing staff. And if I'm a Hearts fan, I would be excited with this one.
On Derek's to-do list, Lawrence Shanklin, the club captain, spoke yesterday in the Sunday newspapers. He was going to speak to Derek. Derek was his manager once at Aberdeen back in the day. Can you see Derek McInnes convincing Lawrence Shanklin to stay? And what does he do with 42-year-old Craig Gordon? Is there another season in him?
Well, I mean, I think for Lawrence Shanklin to start with, I think Derek would be. He's got to do everything to try and keep him, hasn't he? I know it might be out with his control now because his contract's run down, but I don't think Lawrence Shanklin's going to have the same suitors as what he had at this time last season. Unfortunately for him, he was still under contract, and he would have got that big move. He's finished the season reasonably well. Neil Critchley was sometimes criticised for playing him in that deeper role. In the last few weeks, he's went back to being a striker as such, and he's been able to get himself on the score sheet. And, you look at Derek, he wants pace in the wide areas. He wants balls into the box. He wants two strikers on the pitch. You look at Lawrence Shanklin, and it might just be he's maybe looked at it and thought, his Rangers move and a move elsewhere. It might just be he needs to actually, for a year or 2 years, and I know he's obviously not going to get any younger, but you kind of get the feeling that it could be the perfect manager for him. It could be that manager. If he stays, buys into everything that Hearts are going to do going forward, he's already shown he can score goals, and it might just relight his fire at Tynecastle. I said, finish the season really strong. He'll want to start next season if he does sign that new deal. And I think we're led to believe that they're already in negotiations for him to stay. There is no doubt that he'll want to see where Derek wants to take the club and what he wants to achieve, and then commit to it from there. Craig Gordon, it's an interesting one for me, Roger. I've got to be honest. I think that when you're trying to build things, there's no doubt that a 42-year-old goalkeeper won't be top of your list in terms of building things. Yeah. But he is the Scotland number one. Mm-hmm. He will be missed in this upcoming squad as well. It is a difficult one because, Craigie, he obviously played a lot of football when he was young. He had that large period out the game. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Only Craig Gordon can answer. You see a lot of players going on longer now. He might be 42 in terms of the number, but he might not feel like that. His body might be totally different. So, again, it's going to be another discussion for Derek McInnes to have with Craig Gordon to see where that goes. I think that with Xander Clark there as well, and he signed a new 2-year deal a few months ago. He's probably think that Craig Gordon's going to be coming at the end, and I'm going to be giving him opportunity in the goals. So we speak about Rangers in terms of having that competition and pushing each other on. Hearts have got that right now, but I kind of look at it as a strange one because usually when you look at the goalkeepers, and you say, I've got two number ones. I don't think Craig Gordon can be a backup. Craig Gordon either has to play or he's finished. Because if he's to stop playing now, then his body would pack in on him. So, I think it's one of those ones where you either look long term and say, right, okay, I need to replace you, and Craig might move on somewhere else and he might want to finish his career. I don't know. I'd be astonished if he does want to finish his career in terms of the amount of games he's played last season. He was Hearts' number one. He's Scotland's number one. Why would you want to finish on that? Yeah. But at the same time, I don't think if it was the same scenario as last year where Xander got in ahead of him, I don't think Craig would be the ideal number two as such, because I think when you get to a certain age, you need to be playing.
Neither of them in Steve Clarke's squad today for these end-of-season friendlies against Iceland and Liechtenstein. 7 uncapped players. The name that jumped out for me, Kieran Bowie of Hibs. It was at Easter Road on Saturday. I saw him score the first equaliser against Rangers. He's been in the youth squads of 21s. Does he merit a call-up, Boydie?
Yeah, I think he does. I think there's been a clamour for Simon Murray. And listen, I've not had people say, you've always... I've nothing against it, but you've got to look to the future. There's no point. And I look at Kieran Bowie, and I've always liked him. I thought when he first came up, for him being so young, I looked at him and thought, you know how to use your body. You know how to get your body into positions. You know how to roll defenders. His movement, I thought, was very good. We've seen earlier in the season as well a couple of finishes off that left foot that, I mean, it is a cannonball. There's no doubt he can finish. I like him. I've heard good things about him as well. He's a good kid. Wants to work hard every single day. So, for me, I think, the likes of him, James Wilson in and around the Scotland squad, that'll help in the long run. You've got, Conway there as well, Middlesbrough. So, for me, looking at it, it's a decent enough striking line, and you've got to. It's a difficult one for Steve. Andy Irvin's coming into the middle of the pitch as well. So I think for Steve Clarke, he's got 2 games. He can't totally discard everyone, but he does need to. Whether Steve will be there after the World Cup qualifiers, I very much doubt it. But he's still got to be able to get players in to pass that on to the next manager to give him the opportunity to flourish. There's no doubt that we've got players in certain positions that are exciting, but the one position I would be worried about, Roger, is the goalkeeping one. It is something that, for me, we've been blessed for a number of years now to have some top goalkeepers in Scotland. Unfortunately, they're all round about the same age. They've all played through the same. They've all had huge amount of caps, but they're all. 2 of them already came to the end. Craig Gordon still going, but for how much longer? So the goalkeeping situation for me is something that does need addressed in Scottish football. But there is excitement there for the youngster Nathan Patterson back in the squad as well. So there's excitement there for a lot of the younger Scottish ones to be given an opportunity.
Boy, we look forward to these games in 2 or 3
Never
weeks.
mind that. What about the goal at Easter Road as well? Did you think it was over the line?
Yes, I did think it was over the line, only by a bit of foot. But listen, the one thing you can say, Boydie, is thank goodness it wasn't a helicopter Saturday, because if that goal, the ghost goal, had any influence or impact on the last day of a league championship race, this show would have gone on to midnight.
Oh, incredible. I think everybody knew it was in. I don't know if people are saying, Rangers player never celebrated, because I felt as if, because the whistle didn't go for the goal, they were probably in shock after that. Everybody can see that it's crossed the line. But look, the deficiencies in, our technology in Scotland, and I know people will point to VAR and have a go at that. You look at from the angle that they had, it's difficult to see, but for everybody else, it's just a case of you could quite clearly see it was over the line. And listen,
Boyd, I'm just glad you've taken it better than John Brown.
Oh, bomber, some man, isn't he? Oi. Oof. I think it's safe to say that's a man that wears his heart on his sleeve, isn't it?
I think so. And fair play to him. It's been wonderful, Boydie. We will be back here next Monday. We will review the Scottish Cup final between Aberdeen and Celtic at Hampden. And keep watching, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Say again?
Is it possible for both to lose it? May the best team win.
Exactly. Are you a mascot?
No, there's no way I could get into any of their costumes.
Boydie, thank you very much. Take care.
Cheers, thank you.